Okay, it is 8:21 power hour, and I just wanted to do a quick follow up on this SPY and minute by minute we did yesterday. So yesterday I was telling you guys, hey, as long as we're underneath these purple lines, I'm a short. As we get over it, I'm a long. And the reason being is, yeah, you're over these people. You're over the bulk of people. Everyone becomes in profit. Everyone's happy. There's very little resistance for you to hit as we move up. But this is the level that we have to get over for it to flip back to a long. And here it went, boom. So as somebody that's wanting to get long here, you had a couple options. You could buy right over the break of the purple lines. You could buy over the break of VWAP. You could have bought over this next high. All of those are fine to buy as breakouts. For me, I would have been buying as we broke over the purple and VWAP. These are the two levels that I would have been buying. And what would have my risk been at that point? For this trade to work, or I'm sorry, for this trade not to work, what would have to happen? It would have to go back below the purples. It would have to come down here. So if it came back down to 558, I'm a buyer. 558.23, 558.63, 558.43, I'm a buyer. We're above, we're coming back, we're retesting those levels, let's go, right? So as we follow this out, for me, my sell points are, I would sell some of this at a double top right here, right? I would have sold some here at 559.46 to 560. That would have been a sell order. You got another double top up here around 560.75 if you get up there, right? Oh, wait, it didn't go. Oh, shoot, let me buy some more. What do we call this? We're above the purple. What do we call this? It's your first hit of this level. So what is this called? It's called a retest, right? So we're retesting this level. Now, if it rolls over and breaks down, well, shoot, you've got breakout, fail, break down, failed, breakout, failed. If it keeps doing that, I'm just not playing. I'm not going to play. Get my ball and go home. Okay, so now we gap up this morning. So what is so beautiful about the gap up this morning? What do we want to do? As soon as the gap up this morning happens, it's like, oh man, I'm licking my lips and I'm like, let's go. What are we so excited about? Again, I would have sold some into this pop-up, right? That's my rules. I sell some. Yeah, sell and watch for retrace. But what does the gap close line up with? Gap close lines up with what? Yeah, the buy zone, your purple levels. Oh, shoot. Oh, man, I'm buying this gap close if we can get it. Right? So, oh, look. All right, we tried filling, we can't. Failed breakdown here. Led to this push, right? Led to this big sell-off, fell off, blah, 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 everything I normally say. And then, boom, it hits your level. Oh, shoot, yeah. Okay, so at this point, guys, once I bought here, where would I be selling? Like, as I bought and I see this double bottom happening off of this level, where would be my first target? Not, I wouldn't sell all of it, but where would be my first target? It's going to be the people right here. These are the people providing resistance now, right? So they were buying, selling, that maybe they stopped out, maybe they took profits, maybe they bought here. This is the level that I would begin to take profits. Somewhere between 559.75 and 560.50. In that range is where I'm going to be distributing. And I wouldn't distribute all of it because if it does break above that, then shoot, I'm gonna sell some up here at this double top. But if it doesn't, right, now I have the choice to say I can buy back again. So I would have sold some here because you're hitting that level. And what you would want to see is like a dip and then another buy to consolidate to get through all of these people, right? Oh, so I would have been stopped out right here, right? It's like, all right, so buy. If I had hard stops in, if I was just watching, I may not have been. So what this would have looked like was buy, sell, right? Then I have the opportunity to buy back if I want to, and I probably would have. And so I would have bought somewhere around 558.50. If I had the hard stops in, I would have been stopped out. But then what would I do immediately as I was stopped out if I'm watching this, right? Oh, it's a failed breakdown. We're back above. There's room to take this from the purple back to the next level. So this is the air that you're going to be able to take it to, right? So do you see how these purple lines that we drew in yesterday are so powerful? Like, this is the power of VP. This is the power of understanding levels. This is the power of being able to say, hey, it's over under right here, right? If you're over it, it's a long. If you're under it, it's a short. And this is following price action. This is stuff we did yesterday. There's nothing. We did nothing today. We're using yesterday's price action to determine where the levels are going to be determined, right? Does everybody understand the power of this stuff now? And I wanted to go over this because it shows so many examples of how people do, of how the market makers do things, of what they do. You've got your breakdowns, you've got your failed breakdowns, you've got your retests, right? So what I would have been looking for on this breakdown here, I would have thought if they wanted to break this down, I would have thought that they would have held this level here, this basically the second time. You could count this as a third, but I would have counted this as a second time. And then I would have thought they would have rolled it over and made the price action come back down to here and then break it down. And then you would have your descending triangle type look, right? So that's, if they really wanted to break it down, I think that's what they would have done. So all they were doing here on this breakdown is washing you out. Right below it. Boom. There we go. So anyway. Hey Shree, awesome. You played most of this today? That's awesome. That's great. So does this make sense? Does anybody have any questions about this? And we do this on the minute chart. We do it on the 5, 10, 15, 20 hour. You know, we do it on all charts. And so if I'm looking at a daily on something, what I'm going to have is I'll have a buy zone. So like the IWM yesterday, right? When we're looking at this IWM, I'm looking at this particular section. And this is a zone. This is a zone we're in. I call it zone 2, right? And so what I'll do is I'll say, all right, this is a zone that I'm willing to buy within. But then I'll zoom into this zone and I'll say, all right, within this zone, I think some of the best buy levels are, well, obviously, let's maximize it, make it a little bit easier to see. So yesterday when I was buying the IWM, what were we doing? Right? We were simply coming into point of control, value area high, value area low. You can put it here, it doesn't matter, but I put it here. And so as we go back and we're like, oh look, remember those purple lines? Here's the purple lines for the IWM. Here's where I'm willing to buy and get long. Oh, look, we just made 90% today because we simply bought on the purple lines. Buy support, sell resistance. It's not hard, right? Okay. I'm gonna do this to you guys until you get sick of it, because I got more time now if I don't have to run around the world for my kids. But anybody have any questions at all? Grin, how do you pick your targets in the morning? It's a great question, and it all depends. If if I'm buying the target, the main target for technical analysis is going to be the major pivot point above or below you if you're shorting or longing. However, you're going to have minor pivot points where you're going to be taking profits. So, for example, on the SPY, you're going to have minor pivot points up here that I will be taking profits into. But my goal for everything is always to take it back to the next major pivot point. And the next major pivot point on the SPY is going to be within these people, right? Because I want to take it into this group of people because this is going to be your next zone, right? Like zone 1 below, zone 2 at, zone 3 above. So this is zone 3, this is zone 2 right here. Here, I'll box them. Zone 3, zone 2, and then zone 1 is the people below you, right? So if I'm longing, the goal is going to be, I want to bring it back to zone 3. If I'm shorting, the goal is I want to bring it back to zone 1. However, when I zoom in to zone 2, I'm going to say, hey, let's sell at the next resistance levels that are minor pivot points within zone 2. So for example, today, if you're buying the gap close and you're like, hey, let's target, you bought the gap close, you bought the levels today on the IWM as it came back in. Your next minor pivot point is going to be somewhere in, I'm going to change the color of, actually I'll make it a circle. It's going to be somewhere in here, right? So I would zoom into these levels and I would say, oh, okay, let's check it out. Look, if I'm buying a gap close today, right, and we've done this price action, where are the longest lines? All right, oh, well, there's one, right? This is a minor pivot point that you would want to sell into. You could actually argue that this is one too, but I probably would not have done this one. I may have. But this would have been the minor pivot point that I would have sold into. So buy down here, 213, sell some up here around 214, right? And then the other minor pivot points are going to be up here. Here's another minor pivot point. And then you've got your double top. As you break out your double top, what should happen? You should go to zone 3 above you. So within zone 2, you now have zones. You got basically zones within a zone that allow you. So do you see the price action, how it's following? Like, I'm not forward looking and looking at this stuff. All I'm doing is marking up the chart. We go back and we look at it. Oh, it worked perfectly. I would have gotten my sell off, right? Boom, boom, boom. Sell, sell, right? And then now it's like we break through. Oh, wow. What are we going to retest? Oh, wow. We're retesting this upper zone. So this would be zone 3 within zone 2. And we're trying to do what? We're trying to set up so that we can do a breakout and fill this gap. So what is your target? Well, the long-term target is always the next zone. The shorter-term targets are the minor pivot points within that zone. And what I'm doing by taking profits at the minor pivot points within that zone, it's allowing me to play the price action of buying the dip and selling the rip. And eventually we're going to break, and I'll have such a great cost basis that I may be buying right here at 213, but because I've taken profits and I've bought and I've sold, and I've bought and I've sold, my cost basis, including my profits, are going to be way down here, which is going to be well below my stop out. That's why in my journal, when you guys were watching, I didn't have a lot of losses, but I had quite a few things that were only $300 wins, $100 win. Well, those were trades that didn't work, but I didn't lose money on them because I was trading within zone 2. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah, so end of year target for IWM. I'm thinking between 250, 255, 260 area, about 20% from where we are now. And maybe more. But I think we can get a flood into small caps once rates start getting cut. Yeah, about 17 to 20%. And and I think we could get another 20% next year, right? So I think 20% to year end, and I think actually more next year because of the earnings. I don't know if you guys have seen the earnings power of what's happening with the small caps. So from this point for a year from now, I'm talking 40%. I think we could get 40%, but I think we could possibly get to 20, 15 to 20% this year before the end of the year. Yeah, Sharky, I am recording this 100%. Yeah, I'm already in Vizsla. Um, you know, I bought a bunch yesterday. Um, I bought. I'm pretty loaded in IWM, but I've been buying this since back here. This is when I started buying. And you remember I was saying you trade within a zone. See this sideways action? I was able to make some good money on sideways action because I'm buying dips, selling rips. We tried breaking out. I'm getting excited, and then they're like, just kidding. So I was able to sell some in here, and now I'm buying all that back plus more. So I'm adding to a winner. And so, do you want to add it today as we're coming up into this zone? I prefer to buy on pullbacks like yesterday. But if you're buying something and you're planning on holding it for 6 months to a year, I think here's fine. And the other thing that you can do on the IWM is because it's only $200 versus the SPY, you can actually you know get 100 shares and you can sell calls against yours. They have options every day, every week. You know what I mean? So if that's something that you like doing, um, buying and selling calls. So like right now, if you wanted to, instead of buying yesterday, maybe you wanted to sell to open a put, right? And then get put to shares, or and then buy, and then sell to open calls against your shares as it reaches resistance. What I do on AMD basically, that you can do that on IWM because it's harder on the SPY because the SPY is $600, right? Yeah. Um, how about this? How about tomorrow, guys? I'll do a lesson on how to buy back and add and all that kind of stuff. Let's do that tomorrow. So like, within the IWM and BABA, like I know BABA's frustrating, but on shares, on options I've done horrible, but on shares of BABA I've actually done really well. I've bought and sold, bought and sold, bought and sold, bought and sold, and I've done extremely well. So understanding when to buy back after you sold, and or when to add, even if you didn't sell, it's very important to magnify your winners. Okay, I'm gonna stop this recording then if nobody else has any other question. Yeah, if you can't afford 100 shares, what I would do is I would go out and I would probably let me look at the options here. So on the IWM, if you went out to January, what I would do is I would say, all right, I want to. This is what I would do. Again, I don't. I play bigger. I play more in the money with bigger numbers. I would probably buy a 210. So that would give me about a 230. I might even do 200, but if that's too much, that's $3,000. So, but the reason I would say 210 is because you want to be able to have at least two contracts. Right? You don't want to just have one, so you have to sit there and just look at that one. You want to be able to buy and sell another one as price moves. So, you could buy a 2016 for $4,000, right? Or $4,000 versus 21,000. And that would give you, your delta is going to be about 64, 65, where it is now. So technically, what is that, 120 shares? And so you could control the fate of 120 shares from that level. But what I would do is buy one, give it opportunity to move around a little bit, and then next month, look at it and say, well, where are we? And then add, right? If we're down here around 200, and then that's where I would start. That's how I would play it on a smaller account. Okay,